So good afternoon, all. My name is Jan Gonzales. If I haven't had the opportunity to meet you yet, I am a community education supervisor with the University of California Cooperative Extension. I'm based out of the San Diego County office, working on the Goldspotted Oak Borer education and outreach program. I work with my colleagues throughout the Southern California region. So I am really excited to be here with you today to help kick off the 2026 Spring GSOB Blitz project. I want to introduce my two co-presenters. Beatriz Bea Noboa Berman is a natural resources urban forestry advisor for Orange and Los Angeles counties. She will be presenting. And Kim Corella is a forest pathologist with CAL FIRE, and we're all three going to be giving, well, Kim and Bea will be giving you the bulk of the presentations. I'll just be doing some brief overviews for you today. And then we're going to have quite a bit of time at the end for some Q&A. So feel free to store up your questions, add them to the chat. Julie Clark, my colleague who is with UC Cooperative Extension, Agriculture and Natural Resources based in Ventura County, is with us as well. And she's at the back end. She's going to be kind of monitoring and managing the chat panel for us. So thank you, Julie. Thank you, Bea. Thank you, Kim. Appreciate you being here to help share this information. And we really thank all of you who've joined in on the webinar today for this training. We thank you for your interest and your leadership in being part of this program, Goldspotted Oak Borer Blitz, for caring about our oak woodlands and our oak trees in our communities, for being willing to get out there and help work with the folks in our communities to help them learn and participate in this event as well. So let's get started. I just want to make sure we are recording, correct? Everybody see this all right?
Yes, and we are.
Okay. And do you see that? Yes, we're recording?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't know why. So real quickly, what I'm going to do is I already did the welcome and introductions to the webinar team. Housekeeping was mainly about recording. We are recording this webinar, and as soon as we can, I'm working really hard to get this processed and uploaded to our GSOB Blitz webpage on gsob.org. And so the recording will be there if you would like to revisit it, or if you have team members or volunteers that you would like to have them come and check this presentation out, you can direct them. I'll be sending out a email to let you know when the recorded webinar is available for viewing. So you will know when it's ready, or you can just keep checking back on the GSOB Blitz webpage off and on. And then I wanted to share a little bit about what this project is and where it came from. Sorry about that. So this is kind of the lineup for today, our agenda, if you will. Bea will be talking about GSOB. Kim will be talking about the data collection process and the tool, and also about the dashboard and map. And then I'll go over some tips for your actual survey day and Q&A. So the GSOB Blitz was a pilot project. We began it last June, and we had 6 counties involved, and I believe there were 7 groups that met to survey. There was a lot of enthusiasm, and so a lot of individual groups organized their own survey events in the fall, around October, early November. And this, I guess you would say, is our first official project blitz, not a pilot, not testing it out. So moving forward here, it's a community effort to detect, to raise awareness and to train community scientists, if you will, community participants, volunteers, how to identify evidence of gold-spotted oak borer and how to report the data and how to share the information with others. So we're trying to gain a better understanding of the distribution and the edges of infestation so that we can do a better, increasing our knowledge helps us and land managers do a better job of planning for their land management activities and helping us with education and outreach to know what are the leading edges of the infestation and how can we reach out to those communities and planning for that. So, everybody who participates in this activity is really very important. And the work and the effort, it makes a big difference. So again, we'll be thanking you over and over again. But we do appreciate you being here. And we also wanted to just start developing a method for gathering information and expanding our capacity to be able to gather this data and to get it reported and develop mapping tools and mapping reports, if you will. So this year, or this spring, so far, we are going to be in 7 to 8 counties. There's a couple that I've spoken with, a couple of groups that haven't quite registered yet, but they are working on it, getting their groups together. We last year for the pilot project, we had a 2-week time period. This year, we have a full month long. Tomorrow is officially Earth Day. And so we are correlating our effort to be part of this Earth Day focus, Earth Month focus, and for some folks and some organizations, it's part of their Earth Month activities. So right now, like I said, we have, by the end, we'll probably have 8 counties involved. We'll probably be adding San Bernardino to this, we're hopeful. 13 or more actual survey blitz groups and group leaders and collaborators. We're representing well over 10 organizations. So this whole effort is not possible. The whole education and outreach program for Gold-Spotted Oak Borer, but definitely this effort, the Gold-Spotted Oak Borer Blitz project, would not be possible without the collaboration, this joint collaboration between our agency and NGO partners, as well as our community volunteer leaders and volunteers in and of itself, just interested in being part of the process. So here's just an example of some of the dates that are set, some that are coming on board and to be announced. Again, thank you to all of our partners and funders. This spring event is funded. We want to thank CAL FIRE for their support in helping us with this event. So that's all I have now. Again, as the Bea and Kim deliver their presentations, if you have questions, please go ahead and put it in the chat. And I'm going to turn it over to Bea. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hopefully you guys are seeing my screen, and hold on just 1 second. And do you see the right one? The good
Yes.
presentation mode? Okay,
the title.
Yes. So yeah, happy that you guys are here, and I'm just gonna go over just very briefly on GSOB and how do we identify the infestations, which will be basically what we will be doing during the blitzes. Let me know if I can see that it's a little bit choppy. Hopefully you can hear me okay, but stop me if you don't or need me to repeat something. Anyway, so I'm hoping most of you took the online course on your own time or will be taking the online course. I'm not going to cover too much about the biology and such of GSOB, just to give you an idea of why are we doing this, right? We have this pest that is invasive here in California, called the Goldspotted Oak Borer. It attacks our large mature oaks. It prefers actually the larger oaks. In the larvae of the GSOB, burrow under the bark and it feeds on the vascular system of the tree. And then as it creates that damage that you can see here in the second picture, and as the beetle larvae, that their feeding activities damage all the vascular system of the tree starts declining, and eventually the tree will die. So we will be trying to identify which trees are infested with this pest. So we will be looking for signs and symptoms on the trees. And we're only going to be looking at the big trees, right? Because anything that is smaller than 8 or 10 inches in DBH, which is diameter at breast height, usually doesn't get attacked or not that as attacked by GSOB. So we're concentrating on anything that's bigger than that. And we're going to be looking for the signs and symptoms, and we're going to be confirming those observations with the Blitz leader that day, or leaders, before we can submit an observation of an infested tree. So let's start with which trees are we going to be observing. There's 3 species here in California that get their hosts of GSOB and get attacked. The more susceptible ones are the coast live oak and the black oak, but also the canyon live oak can get attacked by GSOB. So the coast live oak is a tree that is evergreen. You're gonna see those cupped leaves that are very thick and had those spiny edges. They're huge, usually large trees, lots of branches, very common in the lower elevation or coastal areas. Depending on where your blitz happens, this is one of the, probably the main species you'll see, but if it happens up in the mountains and higher elevations, you might be working with California black oak. So this is a deciduous tree, so it loses the leaves in the winter. It has the typical, when most people think about oak leaves, think about this lobed leaves, so it has that kind of shape, and it's also usually pretty tall and pretty large trees, and we'll find them in higher elevations. And then we might even see some canyon live oaks. This is another evergreen tree, and it has, the leaves can vary in shape and size. Some have spikes, some are like very smooth. And sometimes even within the same tree, you might have all the different morphologies of leaves. So it's a little bit, it's kind of complicated, but also when you see that craziness happening within a tree, you're like, that's probably a canyon live oak. It could also be very small, as like a shrub-like tree, or like a huge tree. So this is the variable one. It is not as common as the other 2 species, so we'll most likely be working with coast live oak and black oak, but you might find some canyon live oak. And when you are in doubt, always ask your leader, make sure that you're looking at a host for GSOB. We're not going to be looking at any other species of tree because it doesn't make any practical sense for us, right? So once you are in front of your oak and looking at it, what are you going to be looking for? The evidence of attacks that we're looking for are, the main one is the D-shaped exit holes, right? It has a flat side, in this case is the top side, and a curved side, and in this case it's the bottom side, but it could be oriented in any direction. Besides that D-shaped exit hole, we'll be seeing other signs and symptoms, for example, staining in the bark. We'll see dieback. We could see woodpecker activity. So that's when the woodpeckers try, basically feed on the larvae and pupae that are under the bark, and they leave these marks. And then you could, oh, sorry, what happened? Do you guys still see the correct one? Because my slide.
No, it went back to okay, there it is.
Okay. Sorry about that. That's some funky stuff. Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyways, so you can see this feeding under the bark. That's if you remove the bark. We're probably not going to be doing that because that causes quite some damage on the tree. So we only do it to confirm very heavily infested trees. But as you know or will know by the end of this and the end of all the trainings, staining and dieback and woodpecker activity are signs and symptoms that are not necessarily associated with GSOB. It could be associated with many other forms of distress. It could be staining could be happening because of fungal infection. Dieback could happen because of another pest, another disease, or even drought. Woodpecker activity, the woodpeckers might be eating something else that's in the tree. So we're always going to be looking for this D-shaped exit holes. That is the key to know if a tree is infested with GSOB. And we're going to be counting how many exit holes do we have in a certain tree. And we're going to give it a level of infestation based on that. So if it has between 1 and 10 exit holes, we're going to call it a low or lightly infested tree. Between 10 and 25, a moderate. And more than 25 exit holes, that's a heavily infested tree, right? We're going to be counting these exit holes within the first feet of the trunk, basically, from the bottom, from the ground to where your gaze can reach. If you're a little bit shorter, that's okay. And then we're going to be adding, taking that information, and Kim is going to talk about how we do that. But beware that there's many other things that make holes in a tree, especially if the tree or that section of the tree has been dead for a little while. There's many other beetles and other organisms that come and also bore into those sections and leave their exit or an entry hole. So you're going to be probably seeing a huge array of holes in a tree, some more oval, some more round, some more like more or less oval or round. And you'll see that it takes eventually a little bit of practice to distinguish these other lookalikes from GSOB, especially because not every time GSOB will leave something that is, perfectly D-shaped exit hole. It could just like maybe it came out at a certain angle. It is a little bit more difficult to distinguish it. So it takes some practice. Even with the practice, sometimes there's some holes that everyone in the team is going looking at them and no one is 100% sure. So keep that in mind, and that's why we ask you to always confirm with the leader before you enter a tree as infested in your survey 1, 2, 3 form, because we want to do that quality control first, and that is part of the learning process. When you say, hey, I think this is the GSOB, and the leader comes and says, yes, it is, not, it's not because of this or that. That's definitely a huge part of the learning process. Just to show you this is something that an arborist was sharing with us, and he was thinking that maybe these were GSOB. And I'll say the ones here on the left, oh my gosh, come on. Very sorry about my computer being a little bit weird today. The ones here on the left are not GSOB. They're either not D-shaped exit holes. Even if they're out of focus, they seem not to be GSOB. Or they're not a hole, they're just an indentation, or they are oval shaped. The ones on the right are likely GSOB with more or less confidence because they do have a straight side and a arched side. So it is not that straightforward. So be aware of that. What do we do when we find the holes? We're going to be taking pictures. And we can take pictures with something for scale. We could do this, but again, your finger, my finger, it could be different sizes. We could use something like a coin or a pen that will help us, or even better, if we use some kind of ruler that will actually tell us the size of that hole. And we're going to include those pictures in the report or in the form when we take a data point of an infested tree during the blitz. So keep this in mind. We all gonna have this amazing GSOB cards. That's the one that you see on the right. So you can always use that as a reference because it has a nice ruler, and we can take a picture with that. So that way, when we do the second round of quality control, we know exactly what we're looking at and what size that is. So other things that will let us know that the GSOB might be in that tree is the crown symptoms. But when a tree is lightly infested, you see almost no change. Like this tree is a lightly infested tree, but you don't see much of crown thinning. But as the tree gets more and more infested, the crown gets thinner, there's less leaves, and eventually you start seeing those big branch diabands. These previous ones were coast live oak. In the case of black oak, the thing we see is they either retain their dead leaves in the winter. They don't drop their leaves, which remember, black oak is deciduous. It drops the leaves in the winter. So that's one of the symptoms, is retaining the dead leaves, and then having the new leaves of the next year are usually way smaller than the previous one. So that's another thing that's just telling us, oh, we should just look at that tree. We will be taking information on the crown rating, so what percent of leaf loss we have in that tree, and we're going to give it a rating based on that, from 1 to 5, from completely healthy to a dead tree. But remember, these crown symptoms are not tell of GSOB. It's just something that tells us about the health of the tree. And the reason why the tree might be in not a great health could be GSOB or could be something else. And then we're going to be looking at the bark staining, again, giving it, looking at how many stains are in the bark, which is also a sign of more elevated infestation, but again, not an exclusive symptom of GSOB. And to finish this, I'm going to give you a few tips. When you go look at the tree, get close to the trunk, get up and personal, look for those holes, look at the trunk from multiple angles, and actually just like go around the whole trunk. Use a flashlight, and we'll be providing flashlights to guide your gaze and to better look at the holes. It really, really, really helps. Use that flashlight. If you don't have a flashlight, in a pinch, you can always use your phone's flashlight. That helps as well. Take your time. Make sure you go slow, because otherwise you might miss a bunch of holes. Make sure you take the photos and confirm with the leader before you enter the infestation data. And then remember, we're going to be recording all the host trees unless your leader tells you not to. We're going to be recording infested and not infested. And this is a question for you. Why do you think we're going to be doing that? You can just unmute yourself or just write it in the chat. No one dares to write it in the chat. Sorry, my slides are weird today. Why will we be recording all host trees, both infested and non-infested?
To create a baseline, yeah?
Correct. Yeah. We want to know also if there is trees that are not infested, are they going to be infested next year? Are we gonna maybe then other trees around it are infested and the land manager wants to do some kind of preventative treatments? It's useful to have that information. Sherry also said to estimate the percentage of population affected, which is also absolutely true. So there's really, really good reasons to record all host trees, and that's why your help is so important. And lastly, have fun. You may or may not have access to a very inflatable GSOB model. But whether that happens or not, is always the important things to have fun doing it and learning and being with other like-minded people. So that will end my side of the presentation. I don't know if we want to wait until the end or answer a few questions if there are any right now.
Hi, Bea, let's go ahead and let Kim go, and then we can have that length of time then at the end to answer questions and all of them. And Kim, are you ready?
Yes.
Maybe we should ask that. Okay. Thank you, Bea.
Let me share my screens. Here we go. Okay. You guys see my screen now?
It's loading.
Loading, okay. So I'm gonna, yes?
Ready.
Okay, I'm gonna be going over a little bit more what Bea said and then how to go step by step through the Survey 123 app and then do a quick online just so you can see it in actual action and then go over the dashboard and show that in real time as well. And then just briefly talk about the GSOB distribution map. So they did a really good job on talking about GSOB. So I just want to kind of go over some same points that she mentioned. That GSOB is mainly in the phloem and bark area. It's not, it doesn't bore into the wood. So that bark area is where this insect lies. So it can be spread really, really easily. This insect doesn't fly very far. It can technically fly about a mile, but they're pretty lazy. They just want to fly to the next tree or stay on the same tree. So natural spread is fairly slow, but they do spread really quickly and easily through firewood movement. So because it stays in the bark, right? So a lot of firewood has their bark retained. A lot of people like oak firewood because it's clean burning. It has high BTUs. It's really used for a lot of uses. So it spread really easily, and this insect has spread around California mostly through firewood, sort of natural movement. But just to kind of reiterate what Bea said, the three oak species that it attacks are coast live oak, California black oak, and canyon live oak. And this is the distribution of these species in the West Coast. So you can see that it does cover most of the West Coast, a lot of the area. So this insect can spread a long way. It doesn't seem to be inhibited by temperature that we get in California. It's been found at sea level and then at like 7,000 feet. So temperature range doesn't really inhibit this insect because it is protected through that bark layer. And this is just showing a risk map of where GSOB could potentially spread, and then the red stars at the bottom are where GSOB is currently found. Those insect has been spread really quickly through the movement of firewood. And this is just a timeline of that spread in Southern California, where we found it in 2008, and then in San Diego County, and then throughout the years, it's been spread into Riverside, Orange, LA, and San Bernardino, and the most recent find in 2024 was in Ventura County. So here's that distribution of Goldspotted Oak Borer, and it's really spreading a lot, as you can see here. So we're really want to know where this insect is, where it's not. So this is why we're doing the GSOB blitzes, to have more eyes out there looking at things, looking at trees, because we have a great group of collaborators and partners, but the more the better. The more people are out there looking, the better it is to find where this insect is and where it's not. So with that, we'll go into how to collect the data. So when you do a GSOB Blitz, there is a Survey 123 form, which I'll go over in a second on how to download. So you want to download that before you attend the Blitz. Some of these blitzes occur in canyons and areas where cell phone service is not the best. So you might not be able to download the app when you're in the field. So it's good to download it before you get there, and then you can kind of play with it a little bit to be familiar before you go to the blitz. And then once you're there, you can start surveying, entering data. And then, as Bea mentioned, you're going to go over the negative, you're going to record negative and positive GSOB trees. So this app can be found in the App Store for iPhones. Just type in ArcGIS Survey 123 or just Survey 123, it should come up. And then the Google Play Store, the same thing. So that's what it looks like a little notebook with a check mark. So you download that. Remember, I downloaded it before the Blitz, just in case you don't have service. It's always good to have that on your phone. So when you download the app, you're gonna click on it. It's gonna bring up this first screen, and you can either create an account if you want to, but with that, you usually have to have it's a paid subscription through an organization. But you don't need that. You can continue without signing in, and that's what I recommend. So you click that continue without signing in. That'll bring you to this page. You're like, well, what do I do now? So you have this in the search bar on the top here. There will be a QR code. You click on that. That'll bring up your screen, your camera. And then there'll be, Jen has this on the website, I believe, or we can provide it to you, but there's the QR code. You scan and it'll bring up the Blitz survey onto your phone. And if you don't have the QR code, do the same thing, but instead of hitting the QR code button, hit these 3 lines, and that'll bring up this menu, and you can click download surveys and then type in the Blitz name, and it'll bring it up and you can download it that way. So those 2 ways you can download it through the QR code or just by typing it in manually. So once you see this right here, you click on that, and it'll download it onto your phone. And then it will look like this. So to open it up, click on the GSOB Blitz button, and then now you're ready to collect information. So how we do that is you're looking at a tree, and then you want to record the information when you're standing next to the tree, because the Survey 123 has GPS and location services on it. So you want to be close to the tree so they know what you're surveying. If you open it up by your car and walk to the tree, it's going to start where you open it up at the car. So make sure it's at the tree. Hit the collect button, and then it'll bring up this page. So you have the date right there. You do want to click on that field to populate it. The location should be automatically accurate to where you are. I did mention it might be by your car, but just make sure that's moving around. Make sure it's accurate when you are by the tree. We do want to have the surveyor's name, but enter your initials because this data will be public. So we just want to have initials on there so you can identify what trees you surveyed. And there's a couple people in the group that have the same initials, like Kayla Smith or Keith Sampson. They'll be all KS, but you can come up with a different identifier to know who's who. Just so you can kind of see what you surveyed, and if we have a question about the survey results, we can just reach out and just ask you those questions real quick. So then there'll be a list of Blitz names down here. These are updated with current names, the ones occurring this year. And so you click on the Blitz that you're going to be attending. And then, where are we? Okay. And then you just scroll down. So this is just a little simple form. So you scroll down after you did your Blitz name. Then the next thing you want to do is click on tree species. You're standing at your tree, you're looking at your tree, and that'll bring up the list of tree species we have in here. Coast live oak, California black oak, and Canyon live oak. I put interior live oak in here just to record it as a negative. We haven't found any infestations on interior live oak, but just in case you come across it, it's good to record it. And then there is another spot for other tree species in case you see something another oak. It's good just to record that. And the fields that have these red asterisks, I mean, they're required. So you won't be able to submit the survey unless all these fields with the red asterisks are checked or filled in. So after you do the species, we get to number of trunks. And so you may know how to determine number of trunks, but we do it the way we do for forestry. So you measure the diameter of the trunk at 4.5 feet. If you have one standing with one bowl right here, that's obviously one trunk, but it can be a little tricky if you have multiple stems in that. I'll show that in a second. So you measure, this is how we get the diameter, but this is where you want to look for the number of trunks. So if you have one, just a normal tree, one trunk, or one stem, that's one trunk. Easy peasy at 4.5 feet. But it gets to be a little tricky when you have trees that split like this. So this can be either one trunk or two trunks, depending on where that 4.5 feet falls. So if you're standing by a tree and 4.5 feet is below where the tree splits, that is still one tree. If it falls above where the tree splits, that's now considered two trunks. So you have this one you want to measure separately, and then this one you want to measure separately. And that's in the form, and I'll show that in a second. But I hope this makes sense. And then this can continue. If it branched, obviously, is at ground level, it still falls below 4.5 feet. So that's two trunks. And then you can see how this can increase to 3 trunks or 4 trunks and so on. Usually you don't see more than 2 or 3. But that's important on recording data. So you have the number of trunks, right? So you went through this. So say we have a tree that looks like this guy. You go up to it, measure 4.5 feet. So when you're at home, get a tape measure, measure 4.5 feet, see where it falls on your body, right? On me, it falls right below my armpit. So you stand up to a tree, know where the 4.5 feet are, and see where those the split occurs. So say we're measuring a tree like this, that's 2 trunks. So you type in 2 into that field, then hit the check mark. And that will bring up all the trunk information for each tree, each trunk. So just to show that a little more in depth, 2 trunks, hit the check mark, it'll bring up this information, and then it will have 1 of 2, okay? So you have 2 trunks, right? So you fill the information for this trunk, and you hit next, and you fill in the information for this trunk. And I'll go over this. But I just want to make you sure that you're aware that when you hit the number here, you just hit the next button that'll go through the number of trunks that you entered. If you just have 1, you're not going to have that. It's just going to be this one form right here. I hope that makes sense. So once you have that information, the trunks, you go through the first one. You want to do the trunk DBH. So you're standing at the tree, you know it's 2 trunks. You take your tape measure, wrap it around where that your 4.5 feet are from your body, around that trunk of the tree, and take the measurement. And on those tapes, there's 2 sides. One is in inches, I believe, and one already has a calculation for a diameter, so you don't have to do pi r squared and that sort of thing. It's already on there. So make sure you have the right side of the tape, because those mistakes have happened in the past, and it's hard to kind of correct and know the DBH of the tree. So make sure you have the right side of the tree, and you can talk to the person leading the blitz to ensure you have the right side. So enter that DBH, that's the required field. If you're tagging your tree at the blitz, sometimes you do, sometimes they're not tagged. Write that tree tag down. Just again to show how that's done. And then Bea went over the crown rating, but that is also needed for the survey 123. So you click on this field and it creates a drop down showing these crown classes. There's no pictures, but it's the crown classes. So 1 is healthy, 5 is dead, and then the intermediate in between here. So you want to look at the tree and do your best guess. And this will be gone over during the blitz before you guys go out and survey. Just to know that 2 and 3 are kind of tricky to tell between. But it's okay if you don't spend all day trying to figure it out. It's hard. We have a hard time. We just want to know if it's healthy and how dead it is or how impacted it is. So that's required. We also, if you want to, you can record staining. This is broken up into different areas on the lower bowl. This is where this also can be caused by numerous other factors, diseases, wounding, other insects. So it may or may not be GSOB. And sometimes usually you have an exit hole surrounded around here, or sometimes you don't. But if you see staining that's like this, you can record it, and that'll give us an indicator of how infested that tree is, or what is going on with that tree, even if it's not GSOB. So again, you'll have these staining ratings from 1 to 4. And that just shows increased level of infestation or what's going on with that tree. So that's recorded there. And then Bea went over this, but the exit hole rating, again, you have 1 to 10 exit holes, 10 less than 10, I mean 10 to 25, and then greater than 25. So you want to record that. And we also want to have you record the number of exit holes, just for quality control. Because if you have a tree that has a 1 and it has 1 exit hole, that might be a little different than if a tree has 9, or just so we can see the impact of that of GSOB on that tree. And Bea mentioned you want to also take pictures, so make sure these are in focus. So you want to see the whole tree, so you can see what the canopy looks like, what the whole tree looks like, and confirm that crown rating. Make sure it's the right species of tree, and then take pictures of the exit hole. And this, as Bea mentioned, the finger is not the best strategy for scale. We do have GSOB cards that you will be given during the blitz, and I'll show a picture of that in a second. But you do want to show the exit hole with that card so we can tell scale and size and that sort of thing. There is a section for notes. This is really important. It's been really helpful because sometimes location fails and it's hard to know where these trees are in space sometimes. Sometimes I've had some in the ocean, but people put down this tree was by tagged 420. And I try to find tag 420, and then I can move that point on a tree next to 420 that hasn't been surveyed. So that's super helpful. Putting any notes of location of where this tree is, that sort of thing is really super helpful for me. Because when I go through the data, I approve all of these and put the spatial data on the dashboard. So I want to make sure that everything is accurate. So when you're done with that, you have your notes, all the tree trunks, all that information filled out, your photos. Then you click the icon on the bottom, that check mark, and it will hit done. And then you have a couple options here. If you have cell phone service, you can hit send now. If you think you made a mistake, click continue with this survey. Because once you do that, once you save it or send it, you cannot go back to edit it. So you want to make sure that you actually have all the correct information, or you can just save it in the outbox. If you don't have service, it still collects all the information. Save it in the outbox, and when you get to back home or somewhere where there's service, you can click on the outbox and then send all those surveys. So, and if you do happen to submit a survey and you're like, oh, shoot, I had the wrong thing, or this is not the right data, or something was wrong, you have to do a new survey, but you can make a note of that in the notes, and then I'll be aware that the other one was, I can delete, and then the new one counts. So when you get back in service, as I mentioned, click on the outbox, and then here, click send, and they'll all be uploaded to the database. And then I'll go through those and make sure they are correct before they're submitted to the dashboard. So I just wanted to go through, so if I can get this really quickly. So here's what it will look like. So I download the survey. If you click on it, it brings up the form. Click on the date, it populates it. Put your surveyor's initials. Say I'm doing, these need to be updated, but say I'm doing East Rice Canyon. Just scroll down. Tree species, coast live oak. Number of trunks, I'm gonna put 2, and then hit enter, and then you can see how it brought up all this, and then how you can go to, oh, well, let me do it, but 1 of 2. So say the DBH was 24, crown condition is minor, staining, no staining, less than 10 exit holes, and say we found 5. So you can go to the next one and then hit DBH and say that one's 25. This crown condition looks even a little worse. There's a couple staining, these have exit holes. We'll say 1125 and say we found 15. Do you have those data for both of those trunks now? You guys see that? We didn't put tree tags at this site, so I'm not putting tree tags on there. And then any notes you want to do, any pictures, and then you would hit the check mark and it would be sent to the results form in the database. So I hope that makes sense. If you guys have any questions, I definitely go through this with you again. I gotta find my PowerPoint. But I wanna, so, and then once you do this, you go through the dashboard. So this is the dashboard. So all the information is uploaded into here. And then these are all the blitzes that happened last year. So it shows spatially where all these blitzes are, has the count of the number of trees surveyed. So we have 676 last year were surveyed. 539 were not infested by GSOB. So that's a really good thing to know. 137 were infested by GSOB. You can look at the blitzes here and scroll down. Down here is a chart that shows the number of trees surveyed. You can click on any one of these to go to the blitz. So say you want to go to, I'm not sure, we can go to, let's go to this one here. This is Santa Susana. So you can zoom in. This is LA. So I wanted to click on LA, it would just go right to it. I'll show you that. Let me see. Yeah, so it'll zoom right to this. And so say I want to, I click on this tree. Say I think I did this tree. This will show all the data that was entered. You have the surveyor's name, species, number of trunks, all that trunk information. This had 1 GSOB hole, so it shows the tree, the leaf. This one did not show the hole. Let's see if we can find one here that did. But you can see all this information is, let me find one here to show you. Is in here, so you can see what survey you did and what, so you can go back and be like, oh, I did that tree, and you can survey it, and it's really nice to know what tree you did, see the data. Yeah, here's one. So you can click on the image. It'll show the exit holes are marked. So it's really good information. That did not have the scale, but still I can tell that's a GSOB exit hole, but you do want to use that card. So this is really a good tool. And it's nice to see where everything is spatially and super helpful. From here, we have this dashboard, but let me see. But we want to make a regional map. So we have the dashboard, which is helping with that map, but we want to create something like the Borer distribution map, because right now all we have is that kind of invasive maps that I showed in the beginning. So that has its limited locations. If there's an infestation in an area, I usually just put one star or one dot at that location. It doesn't show the number of trees that are infested, that sort of thing. It just shows that that area has USOB, but it doesn't show the extent of the area. So we really want something that's more robust, that shows the severity and the incidence of GSOB spatially throughout Southern California. So we want to create this regional map similar to this. So we are working on that. And it will help out with early detection and rapid response, because the infestation, say you're in Ventura County, you know where the new infestations were found. It helps you do surveys ahead of time, do surveys past those where you know where GSOB is, so you can make sure that it's not there. And then you can do more surveys, do detection, do outreach education, that sort of thing, with communities there to get them prepared if USOB is close by, but it's not in that area currently. It also has collaboration. We want to get everybody that's collecting GSOB data to be able to upload to this regional map, no matter if you're, through the federal system, state system, UCANR, private, people upload that information. So it's all on here, tribal, that way it's all information is on here, and then we can have this map. So I think that's all I have right now.
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, let me stop sharing.
That was great. We're real excited about the dashboard map. I know you put quite a bit of effort into that these last several months, so thank you. Let me go ahead and share just a few more slides here to wrap things up, then we'll get to all your questions. How do I collapse this? Huh. There we go. So it's survey day, and I just real quickly wanted to share with you how to prepare for that, some tips for preparing, and what to expect the day of. So I will be sending 2 different emails out. One will be to the group leaders, and one will be to all of the group volunteers. And it'll just be reminders on how to prepare and expect. So essentially what we're talking about here. But, we encourage you to wear comfortable outdoor gear, active wear, pants, long sleeve shirts, closed toe shoes. You may or may not consider a hat. You might want sunscreen, have water or a fillable water bottle, depending on the location of where your survey is taking place. Some locations are in well-developed areas where there's water drinking fountains available or water sources available. So a fillable water bottle may be handy. You may be receiving some communications from your group leader themselves on any additional tips or points they want to make. Some groups are meeting over the lunchtime hour, and they'll either recommend bring a sack lunch, or some groups are providing lunch, or we're working through lunch, so you'll want to bring some snacks. It just depends on the individual locations, what they may or may not have permitted access to the location for. There's different constraints and restrictions and conditions for each location, and your group leader is coordinating that. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to them. Sometimes having that break to gather a network for 30 to 60 minutes is part of the group leaders' objectives is to help develop that community and that gathering. For your device, whatever you're going to use, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet, again, please make sure it's fully charged and download the app before you get to your survey area. You want to make sure it's fully charged. I want to keep emphasizing that. That was a problem in a few locations that we bumped into last year. Also, in that email that I send out, there will be that QR code for downloading the Survey 123 app. And if you have any questions, you can always either contact your group leader or myself as well. So what to expect, there'll be introductions, there'll be your group leaders, there's typically at least 2 group leaders. One that's handling more of the administrative side, another one who's an experienced Goldspotted Oak Borer surveyor, at least that. Sometimes there's a whole team of expert surveyors on hand to help you with verifying your finds before you upload your reports. Again, as Kim mentioned, you'll want to sign in, check in, and you'll want to make sure that you've given your group leader, check your initials or create a different nickname. Sometimes people will add just the initial of their middle name or some other just really brief short nickname. There'll be waivers. At minimum, there will be a media waiver form from the University of California Agriculture and Natural Resources Division. We ask that be signed unless you have an objection to that. But these events we found do get a variety of response in local communities, and media tends to show up in some locations. So we want to make sure that everyone is protected there. The location, your host, the land manager or the landowner may have a liability waiver that they need signed. Some groups are allowing for youth and children to participate, so there may be a separate waiver form that needs to be signed for children participating. It varies from location to location. The group leaders will give we're recommending that they give a brief overview of the training that you received here, like in the field overview of both identifying gold-spotted oak borer, different symptoms and evidence, as well as how to look for the different types of data that you'll be collecting on the tree and showing that. So there'll be samples available of D-shaped exit holes. And so there'll be that brief overview in the field. And let me think, what else did I want to go over? Again, make sure when you collect your data, make sure before you upload what you think is a positive find with your group leaders or your expert, the folks there who have that experience, so that you can get that confidence developed and confirmation that you are identifying these different signs of evidence of GSOB correctly. Let's see what else. I think Bea mentioned the Goldspotted Oak Borer online course. Link to that is available on the GSOB Blitz webpage. And there's a certificate available if that's important to you. And I think the link that's there is actually the instructions on how to log in. And we encourage you to take that. There's also recordings on from the GSOB symposiums that are on UC Cooperative Extension San Diego's YouTube channel. So you could look at that. I'm going to go ahead and add those links to the Blitz webpage this afternoon. So that should just be handy there. Other trainings, last year's training webinar is online. So that page has a wealth of information. And then you certainly can go to gsob.org for a lot of other resources if you want. when you check in, there will also be what we call GSOB Blitz bags and gear. So it's a drawstring backpack, and there's some tools like the DBH measuring tape, clipboards. There'll be some handout materials, some of the pictures that you saw today, both Bea and Kim shared, showing you the photos of the different levels of infestation, or how to rate a certain condition of the tree. That field that's taken from the GSOB Field ID Guide. So a printed copy of that will also be included. The ID cards that they mentioned, those will be included. Additional tools will be sent to your group leaders, so they'll be handy and they can pass those out, such as the forestry, the wood marker crayons, the pencils and forms. If you're having trouble for some reason with the Survey 123 app, there'll be a paper form that you could fill out and upload data later if that gets sticky. So just, we encourage you to get through that, check in and administrative processes as quickly as possible, so that the field training can start. Typically, what I've seen is that there'll be breakouts of small groups, pairs or small, 2 to 3, maybe 4 people will break out and survey together as a group and help one another. And we just really want to encourage you to have fun. And this is serious business for us, and yet our aim is to really help you learn. And we're really excited to have you partner with us. We're really excited and really appreciative that you are expressing interest in being part of this effort. And we want you to have fun. We want you to be aware of, we want you to have fun, but want you to be safe as well. So, everything from the closed-toe shoes to being aware of the types of region that you're in. Like I said, some areas are going to be very highly well managed and others are more wildland areas. Some are more geographically challenging, more adventurous, if you will. And just be aware, I think Dave mentioned in the chat that, rattlesnakes and other things that may be of danger. You want to keep an eye out and be aware of that. Poison oak. We want to keep you safe. So be aware, but have fun, learn from one another, and just have a good time and enjoy learning. I think that's about all I have, other than, again, to say thank you to everybody who's participating. And I'm going to stop sharing now so we can open it up for some Q&A.
We have
So Julie,
a couple of questions have already been answered that are in the chat. But
Okay.
Here's one from Danny. She wants to know, she has a social media blog. It's about, and she looks at 1 oak a day. She wanted to know if after the Blitz or before, if she could contribute data as to the Blitz process apart from the Blitz.
So we have I think the Survey 123 app is closed after the Blitz period. So GSOB Blitz, it has kind of 2 meanings. One, it's the period of time that we had designated to have these different groups set survey events. It can also refer to the actual individual GSOB Blitz survey event itself. So that term kind of works both with the larger time period, the session, if you will, as well as the individual event. So if we know in advance that there's going to be an event that just couldn't make it within that survey period, we can make arrangements with that. But again, as Kim mentioned, she goes through and does a third verification process before this data gets uploaded to the dashboard. So it's really good to know if for some reason an event is going to be held afterwards. But otherwise, the Survey 123, and Kim can correct me if I'm wrong, but the Survey 123 app will then be closed. And if you are surveying out in the field after the Blitz events, we do have the online report that you can upload information about suspected infestation to. And again, that's right on the homepage of gsob.org. It's kind of like an online survey questionnaire, and you just answer the questions as you go through, and it's, yeah, and you can share the data that way. And that does get reviewed, I think, as I forget who mentioned, but we have different partners in each county that look at things, and we go from there. So that would be my recommendation. Kim, do you have anything else you'd like to add to that, or did I get something wrong?
No, you're good. And they can also use the reporting tool on the GSOB website as well. That might be another option.
Right. And then there's, I think, what's the other tool that folks can use? I want to say
iNaturalist.
iNaturalist. Thank you. Yeah, that's another tool that you could use.
But
essentially, our GSOB Blitz Survey 123 tool, unless arrangements have been made in advance, is just for the period of our GSOB Blitz timeframe.
And as far as monitoring any reports of possible GSOB infestation, your two best options are, as Jan said, during the Blitz reporting period, or the GSOB online reporting tool on the homepage of gsob.org. iNaturalist is not affiliated with CAL FIRE or UC, and so it's monitored not on a regular basis. So it's important for us to know if there are possible infestations in new areas. So either the Blitz or the online reporting tool are best. If you have trouble with that, then iNaturalist, but there's no guarantee it's going to get seen right away. There's one question remaining, and Carla wants to know, it's a question regarding staining caused by gold-spotted oak borers. When does that happen, and how is the sapping created by the beetles?
Yeah, I can tackle that one. And I see that Carla was also having some follow-ups that they don't see it sapping from the exit holes, and that's correct. You won't see the sapping or the staining is not usually or necessarily associated with an exit hole, as in with other pests like shot-hole borers, you will have them associated. In the case of GSOB, the staining in the trunk happens because of the larva damage under the bark. So imagine under the bark you have all the vascular system of the tree, all the xylem just moving water up, and you have larvae just chewing through them and basically cutting those hoses. So
look that up.
excuse me?
Can I do that easily?
Linda, can you mute, please?
Oh, all right. So anyways, as the vascular system gets damaged, if water starts either coming, either sap coming from the branches or any kind of water that was pulled from the roots, kind of like starts accumulating because it can't easily go because it's broken, and that kind of like creates that basically liquid accumulating under the bark that gets stained with the tannins of the oak, and then it starts seeping out through any little cracks that they're around. So generally, the staining is a sign or is a symptom of advanced infestation if it's related to GSOB. A lot of the times, the staining is usually related to other causes. A lot of fungal infection, bacterial infection can cause that staining. But we still like to keep track of it. So it's a matter of getting the whole sort of the whole picture, right? We want to know how many exit holes, how's the crown doing? Is there staining? Like, is the tree actually getting like even worse? Is there cracks in the bark? That's why we look for those signs and symptoms. But staining it's kind of a sign of a more advanced infestation. And there was a follow-up question also asking if the staining will wash out with rain, and it's possible. A lot of the times, because the staining has all the tannins, you still see some staining in the bark, but the rain could wash those symptoms. But again, the D-shaped exit hole is what we're looking for the most. So that should be your focus in any case, now and later, is does this tree have D-shaped exit holes? That's the only way we can tell if it's GSOB. I hope I answered and more.
One new question since then, and that was a really good explanation. Is the question from Sherry is, must participants take the online GSOB training in order to qualify to participate in the Blitz?
No, the trainings are not required to take to participate in the Blitz. We do recommend, we encourage some of the trainings, whether it's the training today or checking out one of the earlier webinar recordings or the symposium recordings, at least parts of it. The online training is an hour. And I think, I would suggest that it would make the experience more enjoyable for the participant out in the field. But, we learn from doing as well. So, we encourage everybody who's interested to come on out and learn from the group members. Also, I wanted to reach out to Linda. I didn't mean to cut you off because I didn't know if you were coming. You had an additional question while Bea was giving her answer. But Linda, if you do if you were asking a separate question, please feel free to unmute and ask again, or write it in the chat box. I'm sorry if I cut you off. Any more questions? No. Going once, going twice. Okay, I will. As I said, I will. I am working with our digital media staff to get this processed and uploaded as soon as we can, the recording. If you want to refer to that GSOB Blitz webpage, the link to that webpage is off the homepage of gsob.org. If you can get to gsob.org, you can get to the GSOB Blitz webpage, and all of these resources will be linked there. Once starting tomorrow, when the Blitz starts, we'll be moving that dashboard onto that page directly at the top of that page. So that'll be near, oops, just lost my earbud. That'll be near live data going there. So we hope you enjoy seeing the results of your efforts there. And again, I want to thank Kim and Bea and Julie for helping us through this webinar training. And keep an eye out for your emails with the reminders and your QR code and all the other links and information. Thank you for being here. I'm going to stay on till 1:30 if anybody else has any other questions.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Adrian.
Thanks, everyone.
Kim, Bea. Oh, Kim, you're here. Bea's gone, I think.
No, I'm here.
Oh, hi. Hi. Can you stay on, please? And Adrian, if you're there.
Adrian left.
Adrian's
Adrian
gone.
left.
Okay. Okay. If the three of you can, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
There, got both of them now. I go ahead and stop the record now.